Hello, Sarnelli House!
Well, Sarnelli House is in the village of Don Wai, and it's in the northeast of Thailand. Then you focus in and you get to the Nong Khai province, and then we get up close to the Mekong River west of Nong Khai. Then you'll, in that area is Sarnelli House. It's about, as a crow flies, it'd probably be about 1.5 miles from the Mekong River. The one house. We have 6 houses. Well, I was the novice master for the Redemptorists for 6 years in Nong Khai. And in 1998, we began to find people with AIDS. People were dying. People were absolutely, they had nothing because their relatives threw them out. Everybody was terrified of AIDS. It was like the old days of leprosy. And we were trying to help them with food. If they were thrown out, we'd build them a little house. There weren't so many in those days, but they're all dead. I mean, after there was no antiretroviral medicine. And these people were, the women, the one thing, they knew they were dying, and the thing they were worried about was their children. Now, their children, most of them had AIDS, but some didn't. And they were so upset about this that I told them, I says, I'll take your kids, don't worry about it, you know. So I started taking them in, and at first it was children, I mean, they're children that didn't have AIDS because the kids that had AIDS had already died before the parents. But then as we began to help these children with AIDS, at least with vitamins and supplements, they began to outlive their parents. So that's when we started taking children in the novitiate, and the superior came up and told me, he says, we don't have kids in the novitiate, we can't. And I said, I was just getting off it anyway. And I said, okay, fine, but they wanted me to go to Bangkok. And I said, no, I'm not going to Bangkok, but I'd like to stay here and work with AIDS people. And they said, okay. We got money from the Redemptorists to build Sarnelli House, 1 million baht. And we were thinking about what are we going to call the building? I'm going to call it the Mother Perpetual Help House. We're going to call it St. Alphonsus. And I had just read the life of Gennaro Sarnelli, and he was kind of the co-founder of the Redemptorists with Alphonsus Liguori. He had been working with the incurables on the wharfs in Naples, with prostitutes, with just wretched conditions. And when St. Alphonsus and his team went out to preach, Sarnelli wouldn't go along. He wanted to stay with the kids with these people on the wharfs and stuff. And St. Alphonsus let him do it. He said, what he's doing is the work of God as well. So actually, Gennaro Sarnelli died, I think he was 38 years old or so, 39, from TB that he contacted from these people. So we said, well, that's kind of the work we're doing, because, I mean, the people that had AIDS had this, we call it the gray lung disease, and that was TB, or white lung disease rather, that was TB. And TB from AIDS people is terrible, uncurable. A lot of times people come in and they ask, well, what do the kids do during the day? It depends which children you're talking about. If you're talking about the AIDS children, they have 6 o'clock in the morning, they all have to gather to take their medicine. And 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's fixed. If you want to change those times, you have to move every 3 weeks, move 5 minutes. It's that calibrated, the medicine they take. They cannot deviate more than 5 or 10 minutes from the medicine they're taking. So that's the big part. The most important part of the day is having the kids lined up for their medicine in the morning and their medicine in the evening. If they're older kids, they're supposed to take it themselves at these times, and we watch them and monitor them. But they have breakfast. They get their money to go to school, their money for lunch, and they're off to school. And then when they're back in the afternoon, they come back, they eat, they go up and take their bath, and then they play a little bit, do their homework, and go to bed. That's during school time. During vacation time, everything is relaxed a bit except the medicine time. The only way these kids are going to make a go of it is if they have an education. And a girl was just here a few minutes ago, and she's going on to Mahasalakam. She's going to take up bookkeeping and stuff like that, and computer. This is a college, she's university, and she's making her big move. She's got AIDS. But every child we're trying to get to make sure they have an education, because when you get an education, you get a decent job. And so far, all the kids that have graduated from college all have good jobs. And they're able to make it. And they come back, you know, over the weekends on New Year's Day, they'll be back to help with the kids. But the only type of independence they're going to have is if they have an education. When we first started out to work, you know, they were saying, well, why are you helping these people? Because, you know, they're going to die. I remember I went to the government agency, the welfare, and I said, you know, we're taking these kids in from the government that have AIDS. Nobody wants them. They wouldn't keep them in their own orphanages. And they were getting 36 baht a day, a little over $1 a day for their food. But we didn't get that money. So I asked this woman, I said, at least you can help us with this money to help feed these kids. It's not going to be enough. She said, who cares? They're going to die anyway. And that was kind of the prevailing policy of the government, was they're going to die anyway, so why work, why help them? And then, I mean, like villagers, they didn't know where the virus came from. They didn't realize it came from sexual intercourse or from shooting up with shared needles. So these people are really vilified, ostracized. They burned them out. Here in Don Wai, behind the church, there was a lady that her 2 sons came home with AIDS, and she took care of them, and she contacted TB. The 2 sons died, and she was sleeping in the parents wouldn't let her, or the kids wouldn't let her stay with them. They put her in a little grass shack, and one night they thought she was dead. They came and they fired up the shack, and she was still alive. So they burned her alive. So that was when I mean, the government was grossed out by that. So I mean, they were just, now that feeling is kind of gone. I mean, we have, in our workers, we have 50 workers. We got over 10 of them might have AIDS, and they eat with the kids, they eat with the other people, and that feeling of ostracism is pretty much gone in these areas where people have a little education. Now, if you go in the interior, you'll still see them burning them out. They won't let them go to the village well and stuff like that. And with our outreach program, we go in and we'll drill them a well. We get the lights we get are these solar panels that they'll be able to run their refrigerator and a fan in their house and a couple lights. But it's a rough uphill battle because people just don't care about them. And the Redemptorists do. And that's our charism. Our charism is for the most abandoned, people that don't care for. And Redemptorists always, our thing is to preach the good news to the poor. Well, you preach by preaching, and you also preach by doing. And we can't do a lot of preaching here because we're in a heavily Buddhist area, but we can give our example by what we do and how we care for people. Bring Christ to them that way.